Now, it may be small comfort, but when it comes to our cost of living crisis, we are certainly not alone. Many other countries are feeling the effects of post-COVID supply chain problems and the Russia-Ukraine war. Let's find out what the UK is doing to ease pressure for the average consumer. I'm joined now by Olly Barratt in London. Hello, Olly. So what are the main factors contributing to the cost of living pressures in the UK, and just how bad is it getting over there?
Yeah, so we're seeing a lot of the same themes and trends that you are, Sally, and rising energy prices are having a major impact really on the rest of the cost of living for households up and down the country, because of the fact that obviously fuel goes into pretty much everything in terms of getting it to the supermarkets and into people's homes. But we're also seeing the impact of the Ukraine war, shortages in some car parts, for example, which used to come from Ukraine. Add that to the supplies of wheat that aren't getting out. That's leading to spiking prices as well. And we've had some new data today. The Office for National Statistics here in the UK says that the prices of some budget food items in supermarkets are up by more than 15% over the last year. The lowest cost pasta that you can get in most supermarkets is up 50% in the year to April. So that just gives you an indication of some of the problems that households are facing. I mean, there's some better news in those numbers as well. Sausages, chips, pizza, cheese and potatoes have all got a bit cheaper over the last year, but households really are having to make decisions now based on their weekly shops if they want to keep their bills down because of the spiking in some of those staples. Petrol, by the way, has hit a record here today as well. It's now at £1.72 per litre, so we're looking at about 33 rand for a litre of petrol in the UK at the moment.
And we are squealing because we might be seeing 25 rand, but then again, we don't earn in pounds. Last week, your government released a raft of measures to try and ease some of the pressure on citizens. What are they? How have they been received by the public?
Some of it is just literally about giving money to people, and that's coming in a couple of different ways. There is £400 for every single household in the country. That will just come off their energy bills, and the government will pay for that later in the year. But there is also several £100 more of assistance that households can get their hands on if they are a vulnerable household or a low-income household, or if they have an elderly person living with them. Again, that's just essentially the government giving them money. This latest package was worth £15 billion, so that's around 290 billion rand, and the government points out that it was on top of a previous package some weeks back which was worth about £20 billion in total, so 37 or so billion pounds in total support coming from the government. This latest package is part funded by a windfall tax on energy companies. Now, it's been received pretty well actually from the Chancellor Rishi Sunak, although the opposition parties say that he moved too slowly and has actually stolen some of their ideas in getting to that point. One of the key issues, though, that we're going to see play out politically here is that we just expect some of those prices to keep rising. I mean, going back to petrol, we were told today, as those petrol figures came out, that we should expect those prices to go higher because we still haven't seen the full impact of actually spiking prices on the wholesale markets, and oil going higher, ever higher, it seems. So that's going to be the real political difficulty for the government, is can it afford to keep intervening in this way if the issue keeps growing?
And in the midst of that, the news that, of course, the Queen is celebrating her platinum jubilee in the United Kingdom. What is planned, and are Britons in the mood to celebrate her 70 years on the throne?
Britons are always in the mood for a free holiday, and they get a couple of those this week. There's a bank holiday on Thursday and Friday of this week, so there's 4 days of celebrations. On Thursday, we will see the Trooping of the Colour ceremony and all the military pomp and pageantry that goes with that. And then we expect the Queen to be on the balcony at Buckingham Palace for a fly-past by the Royal Air Force. And that's one of those moments where you expect tens and tens of thousands of people to gather down below and try and get a glimpse of the Queen on her Platinum Jubilee. On Friday, Friday we have a big service of Thanksgiving at St Paul's Cathedral in London. We expect that Harry and Meghan will be at that, along with other senior royals. The Queen is expected to attend that too, although we have to be cautious recently in terms of the Queen's attendance at events, because sometimes she has been cancelling at short notice if she's dealing with some of those mobility or comfort issues that Buckingham Palace has been telling us about recently at her age of 96. And there's more going on through the weekend, but also just parties up and down the country. Street parties are being held. People are being encouraged to put bunting and flags up in their streets and really get together with their friends and neighbours. If the weather holds, they'll be eating and perhaps having some drinks outside. The idea is that it's 4 days of celebrations. Now, look, not everyone is up for it. Not everyone thinks that the Queen should be celebrated in this way and that the monarchy should be celebrated in this way, but the polls continue to show that the monarchy, and the Queen particularly, is very, very popular in Britain. And so, despite some of those cost of living issues that will perhaps make some of those street parties more expensive than they otherwise would have been, I think it's fair to say that most Brits are in the mood for a celebration.
Yeah, so parties up and down the kingdom, possibly with cheap sausages and chips on the go. Finally, Olly, can you update us on what happened over the weekend in Paris? Total chaos at UEFA. So many Liverpool fans tear-gassed outside the stadium, claiming they had valid tickets. Is there clarity on exactly who is to blame for the stadium chaos? And it seems to be creating a bit of a diplomatic spat between the two countries.
Absolutely it is. The French have been very clear that this is to do with industrial-scale ticket fraud, is how the French minister described it today after a meeting with the ministry, but also with the French Football Association, with UEFA as well, the governing body, and with police and stadium officials. But that has been pushed back at by Liverpool fans who were there, who say the vast majority of people had a valid ticket. The problem was that they were being pushed into bottlenecks, that turnstiles weren't working properly, and we did see those images which just show categorically that French police were at times tear-gassing Liverpool fans who were doing absolutely nothing wrong at all. So there absolutely has been some pushback from this side of the channel. We're told that Boris Johnson is very disappointed about how it all unfolded, and the UK is calling for a full investigation into what happened. Now, France would say that it is holding that investigation, but there are some calls from Liverpool fans, for example, and the MP for Liverpool, who was there himself, Ian Byrne, who says there needs to be an independent investigation because Liverpool fans, and even some Real Madrid fans, by the way, who were caught up in it to a lesser extent, say that this was just a policing disaster and that it shouldn't be blamed on Liverpool fans and it shouldn't be blamed on a ticketing issue which doesn't seem to have been as widespread as French officials would claim. One of the reasons that there's going to be ongoing scrutiny about how France handled this particular event is, of course, they host the Rugby World Cup next year and the Olympics in 2024, so they do need to be seen to be able to host these major events without this kind of thing happening.
Yeah, and seeing some of the images, it just brought back memories of some awful stadium disasters with people suffocated in tunnels and along barrier fences. It is very lucky indeed that no one was seriously hurt. Thank you very much. Olly Barratt in London.